I just now started it.
Let me check.
Okay. Yeah, I just hit the button a second ago. There's usually a bit of a lag.
It looks like it's streaming.
Oh, excellent. Take back all the bad things I've said about IT.
Yeah.
Yep, it says.
I would take a cup there, Commissioner Kapinski, with a creamer in it first, please.
Oh, we're all out of creamer.
And please don't stir it with your finger this time.
Double stir. Oh my gosh. Is this all decaf or not?
It better not be. I need all the caffeine I
Chilly
can
in
get.
here.
Oh, it feels good for once. Usually it's so warm in here.
Yeah, you're right. I'd rather have it chilly, I think, than too hot. Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah, I'll take just straight coffee. Okay.
He actually likes 2 sugars in it, Jared.
Because you forgot to ask for one.
But I never know if it's just sugar or sweetener, so I put one of each in.
God.
He's not.
Steve, I'll just leave this stuff here.
Yeah, I was gonna have mine there too. Beth, you didn't want anything?
No, I'm good.
Steve? No, I'm good. Thank you.
Not used to such a small crowd to start out here.
Yeah.
Should be ready. They moved it.
Recorders on?
Did you notice you left your glasses here last meeting?
Yeah.
Mark's
I came in to sign the.
You're a little nervous, Monty. Not used to doing all of this yourself.
That's
huh?
right. I'm not used to it. It's overwhelming. Especially that recorder. I always struggle with that recorder.
No, because last time I tried to use it, it didn't work.
Did you guys get the patrol?
Okay.
Yep.
Hey, morning, Jacob.
Hey, Jacob. We were gonna send the posse out for you last time.
Welfare check.
What in the world?
Yeah. Better call Troy, cancel it. He's here, Troy.
We're good to go, yeah.
Morning, Bob. Hi, Roxanne.
Good morning.
Morning.
All right, it's 10 o'clock. Well, I'll start the meeting off, and then, of course, then we'll, at some point, we'll turn it over to our new board chair. But let's call the meeting to order and begin with the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance
To the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
All right, we'll do roll call. Commissioner Slingen?
Here?
Commissioner Johnson?
Here.
Commissioner Pop?
Here.
Commissioner Gopinski?
Here.
Commissioner Heinen?
Here.
All right, we'll move on into selecting board chair. Are there nominations for chair of the county board in 2022?
Monty, I nominate Commissioner Heinen.
I'll second. Heinen has been nominated as board chair for 2022. Any other nominations? Hearing none, let's close those. All in favor of Commissioner Heinen as board chair, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Commissioner Heinen, let's just move you on over there.
Congratulations.
Yeah.
The rest of the agenda is yours, sir.
Hey, Ed.
Hey.
Or Commissioner Bob.
Commissioner Pop, you're exact opposite you were last year.
What?
Did you used to sit over here?
I've been in them all
You've
now.
been in them all.
It's the only one I never had.
Okay.
Who made, I'm sorry,
You feel
for my
complete?
note taking.
Yeah.
Who was the motion maker? It was Commissioner Pop?
Yes.
Okay, and who was the second?
Commissioner Kapinski.
Yep. Thank you. Okay. All right.
Give me a minute. Okay, moving on. Select a county board vice chair.
Mr. Chair, for his excellent work in his first year, I would nominate Commissioner Johnson.
And I'll second that.
Okay, we got a motion and a second for vice chair, Commissioner Johnson. Call the question. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Thank you.
Great, Commissioner Johnson, you're vice chair.
Thank you for your support, Commissioner Kapinski.
Moving on, approve or amend the agenda. Is there anything to add or change?
No, you have a bunch of things on your dais, so I thought I should explain them. The agenda item for appoint interim assessor, we just wanted you to see that Michelle had signed off on the agreement. I didn't have Michelle's signature when we put together your packet. You also see the county board calendar of meetings. We had to make a correction to one of those dates, the December date, so that is a correction. And then lastly, you have a revised OSHA ETS policy. The revision is noted in yellow. I believe it's page 2. So just again, some revisions, but actually no items to amend, Mr. Chair.
Thank you. With that being noted, can I have
Mr.
a
Chair, I'll
motion,
move
please?
to approve the agenda as presented.
I'll second.
Okay, we got a motion and a second to approve the agenda. Any further discussion? I'll call the question. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Thank you. Open forum, is there anybody out in the audience today? Thank you. Moving forward, county board meetings are broadcast live and video recorded on YouTube. Please refrain from speaking from the audience area and come to the podium so that viewers can hear you. The county board observes Robert's Rules of Order for its meetings, so please obtain the board chair's consent before addressing the county board. Public comments are generally reserved for the open forum segment or public hearings. However, public comment on other agenda items may be allowed at the discretion of the board chair. As we begin today, please turn off the cell phones or turn cell phones to vibrate. Thank you. Moving forward, consent item 1 through 5. Does any one of the commissioners want 1 through 5 pulled for clarification?
I would like to hold number 4.
Number 4?
Mr. Chair, I'll move approval of consent agenda items 1 through 3 and item 5.
I'll second.
Got a motion and a second, 1 through 3 and number 5. I'll call the question. All in favor, say aye.
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 Passes. Commissioner Schlangen, number 4.
Just a question. This is approving the online, the website bids and through the papers, correctly?
And Chris,
Monty?
Chris is here. Chris, you want to jump in on that one?
Yeah, thank you. So what this resolution would do was establish that our county website is the official location for notification of bids for road construction projects. Statute allows us to do that by resolution, but the statute also says that when the board does adopt that resolution, we have to publish one time at the beginning of the year in the newspaper, in the official newspaper, that all of our bids from that day forward will be on the county website. So if I apologize that the resolution is confusing, but that's what it does. If it adopted, the resolution would establish the website as our official means for notification of bids, but we will also publish one time in the newspaper, directing everybody to our website. Hopefully that answers questions.
I guess would be more transparent if it was in the papers all of the time, or is that a change from what it's been lately, or?
We've been advertising this way for the last 3 or 4 years.
Okay.
Before that, we advertised in the newspapers. When we advertise in the newspapers, there's so many things that we have to publish, major bid items, description of the work, and with having 2 official designated newspapers, it does cost us probably $1,000 per construction project just for advertising the newspaper. By doing this, we're able to save a little bit of cost on our websites. And the reality of it is, the contractors that are bidding on our construction projects, they're not reading our newspapers. They're going to our websites already and figuring out what upcoming projects, what's in our 5-year plan. They're already looking at our website to look for their bids anyways. I really don't believe that we're attracting bidders to our construction projects through the newspaper anyways. So, since statute allows us, I feel like this is an efficient way to get our construction projects advertised to those construction contractors that would be bidding on them anyways.
Commissioner Pop? Oh,
And there hasn't been any feedback of not liking that? Been going good?
Yeah, we've not had any negative feedback. Maybe in the near future, we may go to 100% online bidding. And that would be all done through the website as well. But we haven't got to online bidding yet. We're still just advertising on our website with good results.
Commissioner Schlangen?
Yeah.
This,
Oh, go
sorry, wait a minute, sir.
All right.
This has been happening even in my business for the last 10 years, that everything is online
Yeah.
so that you can download documents and everything to bid on versus going through the paper and then contacting them again to get documents and all that. So it is a very costly process. Commissioner Pop?
Yeah, I was gonna mention the same thing, plus, all the contractors that I see, they'll even ask like, so I've been watching online, when is this project coming?
Right.
That's the way the world works right now, so.
Yeah.
So I
Does that
would,
answer your question?
yes.
Okay,
I
great.
would- I would move to pass,
Motion to approve,
motion to approve.
number 4?
Second.
Okay, got a motion and a second. Any further discussion on that? I'll call the question. All in favor, say aye.
Aye. Who got the second?
Commissioner Johnson. Thank you. Monty, set 2022 County Board regular meeting minutes and times.
All right. I hope you're using the corrected version. The correction was the last meeting in December, so that should appear as December 20th. That's a Tuesday. So just a little introduction. So basically, the state statutes require county boards to meet on the first Tuesday following the first Monday of the year. But otherwise, then it's up to you to schedule when and what days and what time and where you meet. So other than this first meeting, it's up to you. Traditionally, our county board has met on the first and third Tuesdays at 9. So this calendar reflects that, with the exception of December, when the AMC conference is that first week in December, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday. So this moves the meeting of that week to the Thursday night at 6. That allows us to have the truth and taxation required meeting also in combination with the board meeting. Because again, the truth and taxation meeting must occur after 6 p.m. So it puts those together. Yeah, a little bit of a departure from this year. I know we moved all the meetings 1 week later, and that probably created a few issues where we had such a short time frame between our last meeting and this one, and it did push that meeting to that week between Christmas and New Year's, which is kind of tough for people. So this would just move that one meeting to later in the week, Thursday night.
Mr. Chair,
Yes,
Monty, was a consideration given at all? That's a typical planning commission meeting evening?
Roxanne discussed that yesterday, and Roxanne, she left. She was gonna ponder alternatives, possibly moving the planning commission meeting or having it on the same night just afterwards. But she made me aware of that consideration, so she's gonna ponder alternatives for that meeting for you all in December, possibly moving it. So,
and that would create
Yeah.
a long night for
Good.
Commissioner Johnson.
Who knows, we may only have one agenda item. It's fine. We'll work around it.
You're okay with
Yep.
that then?
We'll work around it.
Okay, so we've got the dates somewhat set. Everybody's in compliance with the dates, the time frame.
Mr. Chair, I'll move to approve the 2022 Benton County Board of Commissioner meetings, the dates as presented, with the, following the past dates of the first and third Tuesday of the month, with the exception of December, which we would move to December 8th, which would include a 6 p.m. Truth and Taxation meeting.
Okay, we got a motion.
I'll second it.
Okay, do we need clarification to hold it here at 9 o'clock too then, on those days?
Right, I think the calendar at the top says that they begin
at
at 9
9.
AM unless otherwise stated.
Okay,
Yep.
thank you for that. So we got a motion and a second. Any further discussion? I'll call the question. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Passes. Thank you. Wow, consider a policy to implement the COVID-19 emergency temporary standard issued by the Occupational Health and Safety Administration. Monty.
Okay, give me just a moment, if I may, to locate this, file. Okay, I'm gonna boost this up a little size-wise too. How's that looking for you all?
That's fine.
That's good, okay. I was just thinking, I'm here before you this morning as the face of the OSHA ETS policy, so, you know, I know it's gonna be controversial, that's for sure, there's no doubt about it. But I just wanted to stress, and I hope everyone can appreciate, is that this is a federal OSHA requirement. And it was adopted by reference yesterday by the Minnesota Department of Labor. So they basically adopted it in its entirety without any sort of changes. So we're obligated to implement it. And actually, when the federal injunction was lifted, we had the obligation to implement it immediately. Now, we were told that this matter is going to get heard by the U.S. Supreme Court January 7th. So additional intervention could occur by the courts. But as of today, we have the obligation to move forward with implementing it. So we're required under the ETS to adopt a policy. So, you know, this exercise is being played out in thousands of county boardrooms and city council chambers all across this country this week and next week as local governments implement this policy. So it's not, of course, just us. So maybe what we can do is dig into the policy. You have that revised copy up there in front of you, and I'll point out what changed. So I've highlighted a few things up here on the screen just to go through with you all the major points of this policy. So first and foremost is this policy you have here was derived from a model policy that was made available by the federal OSHA, Occupational Safety and Health Administration. So the model policy very much follows the ETS itself. So I think that's an important point I want to make, and that is what you see in this policy is a reflection of the ETS itself. In other words, we're not making this stuff up, we're not making it more stringent, we're not making it more lenient, we're generally following the ETS itself, and that's reflected in the policy. And that's what I wanted to highlight here in this first paragraph. It's based on a model policy provided by OSHA for employers choosing the testing alternative. Let's move on down to scope. So who does this apply to? Basically, it's all employees. There is an exception. It says here, employees who, while working from home, and employees who work exclusively outdoors. So you may conclude, well, all these folks that are working remotely, they wouldn't be required to comply with this. We think they are because in most instances, the work arrangements of those employees require them to be available to come in to work on short notice. So if we need you to come in today, we can't wait the 7 days for you to get tested and have test results and so on and so forth. We need you to be able to come in immediately. So you may hear, from folks who say, hey, I'm a remote employee, I don't have to comply with this. But again, it's that issue of them needing to come in on short notice. We can't wait for you to go get tested and so on. We need you to be ready to come in at any time. So that applies to the remote work folks as well. Let's go on down a little bit here. And this is under the scope section. It's important to note that employers that are not complying with this ETS are subject to fines. If I recall correctly, it's $14,000 per incident. So that's something definitely to consider. Another statement at the bottom that's important is that employees are not in compliance with the ETS. The employers are required to, quote, remove them from the workplace if they do not provide evidence of testing. And employees could be subject to discipline. for their non-compliance.
Mr. Chair,
Yep.
Monty,
Mr.
just so I'm clear, we're gonna physically walk these people out the door, is our plan.
You know, that's a, I guess my answer can be is to cite the ETS. It says they must be removed from the workplace. How that happens, I guess, is another matter. I suppose we would ask for voluntary compliance for them to excuse themselves until they've obtained test results. You know, the last thing I want, Commissioner Johnson, is confrontations with our employees. You know, that's one of the things I worry about with this policy is, you know, it does set the stage for that. I hope it doesn't come to pass. One thing I certainly hope for everyone is that we can use education, encouragement, and so on. And the heavy hand is something that we would play way down the line, but certainly not resort to it as the first option. You know I've heard other counties and observed that we're in an extremely difficult labor environment right now. We can't necessarily afford to be sending lots of folks home because we have staffing issues already, and that could make a bad problem even worse. So my opinion is that, you know, removing someone should be way down the line until you try to get voluntary compliance first. You explore every possible option. So,
Mr. Chair,
Mr.
this is I get it that we need to do this. This is a federal mandate.
yep.
We are not the only ones doing it. I for one, really don't agree with it, and I hope they do something on the 7th, about this. But this is another example of us being way down the food chain and getting everything pushed to local government. So I hope everybody bears with us on the employment status, because it's not us. This is coming from way above us.
And Mr. Chair and Commissioner Kapinski, I'd agree, and that's part of the problem, is it should be more of a localized decision. We don't need the feds holding our hand on everything.
I also agree, but at the end of the day, OSHA is above everybody else, unfortunately. Even in my business through 30 years, I see what OSHA does on job sites and all that, and I still don't agree with it.
Right.
But unfortunately, if they do pass all of this come January 7th, we're stuck in a hard place.
Correct.
The question I have to you, Monty, and to Bob, moving forward, if we do have people that are not vaccinated that want to get vaccinated, is that something that our public health nurse could do in-house here?
I would say that we have regularly scheduled clinics that would allow people to be able to get vaccines. And I think if we find that that's a need, we can accommodate. I believe we can accommodate that. However, it's a situation where we may have to try and find vaccines on short notice, but I think we could probably get them from Centricare or somewhere. So I think that that would be less of an issue.
Okay, because I would definitely want us as a county, public health nurse, to help those people that are not vaccinated if they so choose to get vaccinated through the county here.
Well, I'll go back and we'll talk about that contingent upon the fact that the
Correct.
7th is going to give this determination. We'll see what we can do about having something readily available soon after that.
Okay.
Commissioner Pop.
I guess my opinion would be that we first try to educate them that this is not our decision. This is a decision that was handed down to us, and we're not gonna be like the last resource, should be forcefully removing them.
I
So
agree.
we need to do probably a lot, if it does come to this point, we need to do a lot of education that this was not us.
Yeah, I agree.
You know, we gotta make that relationship pretty good and before it gets to that point.
How do we, as a board, get it out to the employees that listen? Our hands are tied. If we don't follow this, the county's gonna pay thousands and thousands and thousands of dollars that we don't have, and it's gonna end up affecting them negatively on their positions down the road.
Johanna and I are planning an information blitz very soon about this issue. We got a strategy meeting this afternoon, and we're gonna plan our information blitz to get the word out, this policy, other information to employees. We'll communicate as much as we can through various means. And I'll stress that point, is that we're simply faithfully carrying out the OSHA ETS.
Is this something you're probably gonna do on a weekly basis until that February date? Instead of just doing a one-time blitz?
You know, I don't want to over-communicate. I don't want to bombard folks too much. That's the right, you want to get the right balance, not too little and too much. Too much and people just start ignoring you. You know, we've all seen that where you get so much information, you just delete, forget it, you know. But we'll try and find a good balance of information.
Mr. Chair, one more comment. For anybody that's been involved with OSHA in the past, they do not waive their fees, their fines. These will stick, and if you have 10 individuals not comply with this, that will be tenfold. It's not one fine, it's every time it happens. So we are stuck in a bad place.
Yeah.
So it's per incident.
Yep.
All right, if we may,
So I
let's
have
move
one
on.
more.
So
Commissioner Pop,
I'm sorry,
one
go ahead,
moment,
please.
Monty.
So does that include us elected officials too?
Based on the information we've been able to obtain so far, the answer to that question is no. Elected officials are not considered employees and there are two places. If you look under the Public Employee Labor Relations Act, elected officials are specifically excluded. Also, our personnel policies specifically exclude elected officials. So I think if our elected officials wish to voluntarily be a part of this, I think you may. I think that's your decision. But we're not seeing anything that suggests elected officials are covered by this.
Okay,
Mr.
thank
Chair,
you.
Commissioner Kapinski.
if we're gonna make our employees do it, I think it's only fair that we have to do it. And that's just my one-sided,
At least acknowledge
yep.
would be my thought.
You know, we were elected officials to lead by example.
Right.
If we have to set the precedents for our employees, we should try to follow the same example too, though.
Sure.
That's just
Well,
my take.
Maybe once we reach the end of this discussion this morning and you make a motion on it, you might include that in your motion. You know, again, I don't know necessarily that the board could, of course, require the sheriff or the county attorney to, you could certainly, I think, encourage them, but I don't know necessarily that you could require them to.
I was more thinking about the board here.
Yeah, of course, you bet. If I may, let me just move on through the policy. You know, one thing I should have really said to begin is that on its face, this is a vaccination mandate. Employers are allowed to use the testing as an accommodation, but underlying, it's essentially a vaccination mandate. So this policy is going in the direction of allowing testing as an accommodation for those who choose not to be vaccinated, don't provide evidence of vaccination, and so on and so forth. So that's, I think, an important point to stress, is that if the board chose to, you could make this a vaccination mandate only and not have the testing option. You're given that choice. Moving on here on this page, we're required to allow reasonable accommodations for employees who are unable to test for various reasons. You can see I've got those highlighted: disability, medical, that should say medical necessity, or a sincerely held religious belief, practice, or observance. And that language comes straight out of the ETS. So an employee may say, I have a sincerely held religious belief that does not allow me to be tested, and we'll have that conversation with them about what a reasonable accommodation could be. It's important to stress, though, is that, and I highlighted this below, is that the accommodation does not include relieving an employee of essential functions of their job, or impose an undue hardship on the county. So again, that's going to be very case-specific, employee-specific discussion about accommodation.
Mr. Chair?
Commissioner Kapinski.
I have talked to a lot of people on the religious side of things, and that doesn't seem to be holding
Right.
a lot of
Yeah.
water.
So, again, someone could assert that, but the second step in it is asking, well, do we have a reasonable accommodation for this person? So in other words, a person simply can't sort of be around and be untested. You most likely would have to, could this person work fully remotely? I mean, fully remotely. And there could be instances where that's simply not possible. Let's just say you're a detention officer or a maintenance person in the highway. Remote work probably doesn't work. So again, those are very specific conversations with each employee about their unique circumstances. Let's move on. There's a lot of stuff here about, again, what is fully vaccinated? That's generally what we all understand. You've got the 2 shots, or you've got the 1 shot Johnson & Johnson, and 2 weeks has passed, so you're considered fully vaccinated. So far, being boosted has not entered into the official definition of fully vaccinated, although I suspect that's probably coming soon. And the OSHA reserves the right to amend the ETS at any time. So that could be coming. Okay, now this is, I think so moving on then, for employees who are not fully vaccinated by January 24th, that's about 2 weeks from now, they would then be subject to the weekly testing. And also, if you're all part of the testing program, you also must wear a face covering at work. That is straight out of the ETS. Proof of vaccination, typically it's your CDC card, or if you get a printout from your medical provider, that's the acceptable documentation. We must obtain that and keep a copy here. There's also provision, if you can't find it, you've lost it, you can sign an attestation form that says, hey, I'm vaccinated, I lost my CDC card. Let's move on down here to some of the timelines. So, under the OSHA requirement, we're to have obtained evidence of vaccination by January 10th. That's coming up here real quick. So that's what we have here in our policy, and our intention is to begin with all due haste of asking for employees evidence of vaccination as best we can by January 10th. But we know it's going to take a while. So we're going to give ourselves about 2 weeks until January 24th when testing would begin. I understand it's early February that employers are supposed to have their testing program in place, up and running, and ready to go. Our inclination here is by January 24th, we probably have gotten all the vaccination documentation we're going to get, and then everyone else remaining will be subject to testing, and we will begin the testing process.
Monty, so it's only HR that will have that information, correct? This is not public information, this is
That's
private
correct.
information that
So
goes into their
all
file.
The vaccination evidence and testing evidence is going to funnel into one person in our HR area. Absolutely, that's going to be the person who maintains it.
And just one person only, correct?
That's it. Well, I mean, I imagine it would be Johanna and her person that works with her. You
Okay,
know, so
so
yeah.
I want clarification, and I want names of those 2 people that will be able to see, or that are gonna document this.
It'd be better to document as titles. but
Okay,
Yeah, it'd be the HR assistant and the HR director.
I just wanna make sure that our employees know it's not gonna be public.
Yeah, and it's not in their employee files, it's held in separate OSHA safety file.
Okay, thank you for
Yeah,
that
it's considered
clarification.
medical information, so you've got to keep it separate from their personnel files.
Okay,
All right, let's move on to other aspects of the ETS under ways the county supports vaccinations. The ETS requires us to give employees up to 4 hours of paid time off to go get vaccinated, and then up to 2 work days of paid time off if they need to recover from any side effects from that vaccination. So if they're not feeling well and can't work, they can use up to 2 days of PTO, again, straight out of the ETS. Number 5, employee notification. These are actually things that are occurring now where someone is diagnosed or has a positive test. They have to stay home and quarantine and isolate. So that's really what's actually happening now. Nothing really different there. Of course, as we know, the CDC guidance keeps changing. And I put the asterisk in here. Guidance from the CDC continues to evolve and may change. Yep. So, yeah, and Johanna stays right on top of the latest CDC guidance. Let's move on now to testing. I think most likely, yesterday Johanna and I were on this statewide Zoom call with county administrators and HR folks from all over the state. Testing is obviously the most controversial, disputed aspect of this process, hands down. This is the issue. It boils down to things like, for example, who's going to pay for testing? Employees get time off to go get tested. So this is an issue that's going to come up, I'm sure, here locally and probably at a national level. And most likely this issue will probably get litigated in various places, either the courts or through possibly labor grievance arbitration and so on. Just a quick number for you. I just got from Tim Hansen, who's our person at Marsh McLennan, the average cost of a test is almost $100. So if our county employees are indicative of the county population as a whole, then I would say about half of our employees probably are not vaccinated. The annual cost for those folks to get tested every week is $700,000. So, as from this call yesterday, there are opinions all across the board about who has to pay for testing. Some counties are initially saying, okay, we're gonna pay for testing. Some are saying we're not. Many are unsure. I would suggest that to you all is that, at least for this policy you adopt today, that you not accept the responsibility to pay for testing. At some point, perhaps the courts may, or through some grievance arbitration process, may compel us otherwise. But I would say initially, my recommendation is you not accept responsibility for testing.
Monty, as of now, the testing is free through the federal government and everything, and
Well, here's how I understand testing is working. So if I go get a test, that provider submits that bill to our insurance.
correct.
So effectively, our plan is paying for those tests. So effectively, county dollars and employee dollars are paying for those tests. The test cost, it does not count against employees' deductible out-of-pocket expenses, so I don't get like a bill for it. It's being paid 100% by the plan. Now, at some point down the line, that could change where the plan isn't required to pay for it, and then that's when I suppose this issue will become much more important.
Commissioner Gopinski.
Mr. Chair, that's where the 12% increase we had this year is gonna continue to go up. If nobody essentially is paying for it, it's just coming out of the
health
employee,
plan.
the health plan.
Yeah.
So, another note, back to that $700,000, you said per week? That wasn't just for us, correct?
So $100 times about 104 employees times 52 weeks.
Oh, okay, I thought it was
Total.
per, okay,
No,
yep.
it's total.
52 weeks, about 700,000, yeah. And right, can you imagine if you were an enormous employer, the cost could just be astronomical. So, again, I know this is gonna be a controversial issue, it will be disputed, and again, I'm suggesting for today, the policy show that the employees would pay for the cost.
Mr. Chair.
Commissioner Gopinski.
I wonder, I mean, could you imagine if this was done before we did our levy on what we would have had to plan for? Now it's absolutely horrible because we have to figure it out with the money we already set.
Yeah.
We're already
Add up.
you're right, we're already 700,000 in the
Yeah.
hole.
Well, not really, because our health insurance plan for next year will reflect it, not this year's.
No, but if we had to pay for it out of our,
Oh, yes, if
Benton
we had to
County
pay for it,
funds.
but we
yeah,
don't have to.
that's neither here nor there right now.
Right.
I just want to leave these one thought about testing. You know, for example, if let's just say that counties are ordered to pay for testing, and it is an extremely high cost, and it goes on for a long time, the county board would have within its discretion to remove the testing option. In other words, it is optional. You could go back to a vaccination-only program, and the testing issue would simply go away.
So it's either or. It could be both, or else.
It can be vax test
Vaccinated.
or vax only.
Okay, then my next question on that is, Bob, is there something that the public health nurses could do for testing on site here or not? Is that something you're capable of doing if we have to?
I don't have an answer for that, but I can check on it.
I do think we gotta try to make this convenient for our employees too, you know, if we can do that.
I think that the distinction is that these tests need to be proctored.
Correct.
So, you know, it might be a case where if we can get some tests and we proctor them, that should suffice. So-
You know, Commissioner Hein, I would just urge some caution there, because imagine every Monday morning, 100 employees lined up in the public health offices waiting to get tested. That could consume a lot of time for an employee. I hear what you're saying to make it convenient, but you know, there are lots of testing options out there in the community available for employees. So I would just urge a little caution before we accept this until we understand, okay, what are we getting ourselves into here? What kind of,
I
yeah,
totally agree with you, Monty, but I also want to let it be known to the employees that we want to also try to work with them to accommodate them as best we can too, though.
Mr. Chair, we could alternate days too, like Monday is this group, Tuesday's that group, stuff like that, correct?
I think it could take one employee virtually their entire week to do this.
Yep.
And what other things would go undone for this employee? Are we willing to dedicate this employee's time to this effort?
The only thing I would rebut on that one is one employee's time versus losing 15, 20 employees because they walk out because of it. That would be a very bad situation too.
Right, but on the other hand, I look at it like we have to look at the employees that are vaccinated and are still working.
Yep.
Why should they have to pick up the extra work because some people have to come and get tested? I think you gotta be fair to all employees, and at that rate, you're not.
Yep,
If
good
you're
point.
gonna spend county time or checking or doing a test on unvaccinated employees, then what are we gonna give the people that went out and did it and got vaccinated? That is something, we should not have to define that. That is defined in the policy, and I think we better leave that one alone.
Good point.
Very good point.
Commissioner Johnson?
I'm just writing down my questions to the end. I'll let Monty continue.
Sure, thank you. Let's see here. So again, on testing, so the employee must get tested weekly. Let's see here. And I highlight another, employee does not provide documentation of their test results. Employee will be removed from workplace until the employee provides a COVID test result. Again, this is language straight from the model policy in the ETS. And moving on down, there are lots of different kinds of tests that folks can use. The OSHA ETS defines the kinds of acceptable tests. And as this states here, the county would take no position what test the employee chooses, so long as it meets the OSHA requirement. The county will not approve paid time off. For the employee to travel to or take a test, an employee will bear any out-of-pocket costs of a COVID test. So again, this is consistent with what the ETS, it's no more lenient, no more generous, no more stringent than the ETS. I did want to note this, you can see I don't have it in highlighted, but these over-the-counter tests don't count. It has to be, they cannot be self-administered and what would be the word? Self-verified. It's got to be witnessed by a medical person and verified by a medical person. So for better or worse, these over-the-counter tests you get like at Walgreens just don't count.
Commissioner Pinsky?
Maybe we should be waiting like Mr. Johnson until the end, but I'll forget.
Yeah.
Anyway,
Yeah.
if we were as a county to pick up a whole bunch of these, over the counter and we administer them, that technically would go, I mean, I know it's county time, but that would technically be witnessed, wouldn't it?
That is an option for you. You could have a county employee, I guess it would have to be a public health nurse,
Yep.
to witness the person or take the sample themselves, and then that person would have to read the results. And maybe that's an issue we should try and grapple with this morning. Again, as drafted as a policy, basically the policy is that, okay, folks, you go out and you find your own testing, because there's lots of testing options out there in the community. You go find your own testing option, and you make sure the results get to us. I think if the board wants to have an on-site testing capacity here, that's something probably we should decide this morning. Do we have the capacity to do that? Do we have the staff capacity to do that? Do we, I don't know. Let's just say, for example, we go out and we buy, if you think about it, let's just say it's 100 employees every week at 29, they're about $30 a pop. 100 employees times $30 a pop, that's gonna be something we're gonna pay. If we're buying those retail, we're paying for that cost. So it's not gonna go to the plan. We're gonna pay that cost entirely. I would urge caution about, once you set in place a process, you've set the precedent. And that's what you're in for then. If you pay that cost up front, if you provide testing capacity here on site, you've set that precedent. So I would just urge some careful consideration about that before we accept it.
Commissioner Pop?
Oh,
Oh, I
didn't have-
thought you had a question.
I'm writing down.
If I may, then I'll, so again, as we noted earlier, employees who are part of the testing program must wear face coverings.
Monty, I'm gonna
Yep.
stop you right there.
Okay,
So I'm assuming you're gonna put on order face coverings because apparently we have no more in the county available.
we've talked about that. We didn't really make a decision, but I think we probably will order. One thing is the OSHA ETS is a lot more specific about the kind of
Right.
mask that's acceptable. So
Yep.
for example, these cheap surgical masks, those don't cut it.
No.
They need to be a dual layer cloth mask of a certain material. So I suppose that's something we could acquire at a fairly reasonable cost is masks. I know in the past we provided masks, so I think that's something we could do. Let's see. So there are a few exceptions. This mask mandate is very, very different than the one the state. You may all remember the governor issued mask mandate. So if, for example, if you were in a cubicle and you were 6 feet away from your neighbor and you had high walls, you could not wear a mask. Well, this mandate says you have to be in an enclosed office with 4 walls to the ceiling and a closed door. So this is one place actually where we propose to you a slight deviation from the ETS. Is we in this proposed policy, we remove the exception for the private office. And the rationale being here is that it's more sort of a equality issue. So if I'm in a private office, I get to take my mask off. But if I'm in the open work area, I've got to wear one. So it's an issue kind of haves and have-nots. And I think also we do have a few empty offices in human services because the remote workers, there could be intense competition for those empty offices because that way you don't have to wear a mask. So this actually removes that as an option. So even if you have a private office, you'd still have to wear a mask if you're part of the testing program. But otherwise, these other conditions, 1, 2, 3, are straight out of the ETS. And I believe that is generally it. Let me just jump back up to this page with the timeline. I'm sure that's what a lot of folks know. When is this all started? Our intention is to begin right away asking for the evidence of vaccination and try and get that done by the 24th. So anyone who hasn't provided us with the acceptable documentation of vaccination then will be subject to testing. So then we would inform them, okay, you're subject to the testing requirement and we need your test results by this date. The ETS and the model policy suggests that we need to establish some kind of deadline for, okay, when folks need to get vaccinated by. And, because, there's gonna be some people who aren't vaccinated today but will choose to. And so this kind of gives them a deadline, okay, here's by the time you need to get vaccinated. So to cut to the chase, this suggests that they need to attain fully vaccinated status by March 7th. I should note though, even though you may begin the vaccination process, you're still considered not fully vaccinated. So as of January 24th, you would need to be part of testing. Even though, again, you started dose 1 and then dose 2, you still need to be part of the testing. Okay, I think that is it. And are we ready for more questions, discussion?
I think we're gonna have a lot of questions. Are you ready,
You bet.
Commissioner Johnson?
Whoever would like to start, I'm gonna get a cup of coffee first.
Commissioner Pop, I know you're gonna have questions too.
No, I don't have as many questions as comments. First of all, I know, Jacob is here from the newspaper, and I hope that he stresses in the newspaper that this was put onto the counties by not county choice that we had to do it. My first thought was, like I said before, that all employees are treated equal. I think we're having way too much discussion on the unvaccinated ones, and we're forgetting about the vaccinated ones and the ones that have done the job, and the ones that are gonna have to continue to work if we have to remove somebody from this. I hope it doesn't come to that. I think as we move forward, the mask mandate for employees, I totally agree with what Monty said on that, if you can't be in that private office and be exempted because we'll have an all out for that. I just wondered a little bit on that thought was, so as we're into the snow season, so does that mean our snowplow driver and the motor grader's gotta have a mask on running around the county? I mean, that's what it could come to.
And that's a good point for clarification.
Yeah.
About the public works
Yeah.
people that are,
But-
driving
I
around
think
trucking all
if you're in a
that.
vehicle by yourself,
Self.
you don't have to wear it. If
Okay.
you're in a
Right.
vehicle with someone else, you have to. wear
Then
a
you
mask.
have to wear
If you're
it.
alone, you're fine. Yeah.
You got glasses.
But you can consider that their office, I mean, truthfully, if you wanted to.
Yeah.
So that's, my biggest concern is that all employees are treated equally, whether you're vaccinated or unvaccinated.
I would have to agree with
Good
that
point.
comment.
Yeah, Commissioner Pop, I'd agree 100%, but in and of itself with the ETS, we're identifying unvaccinated people versus vaccinated
Right.
people right out of the gate.
I agree
And
that.
then who's policing this? Is Joanna and her staff, how many people are gonna have tied up? If you're not vaccinated and you're supposed to be wearing a mask and you're not, who's following up on you? If 100 people in this county
Right?
are unvaccinated, who's doing this work? And who's pointing the fingers out?
Yeah, I think we'll have to inform supervisors and department heads which employees would be subject to the mask requirement.
So then it goes beyond HR and the HR assistant.
And I hear what you're saying. I mean, because that suggests, well, maybe this person isn't vaccinated because they're wearing a mask. So
That's
I
right.
hear you. I mean, that's a concern I've heard already all over. It's kind of like it's indicating your vaccination status because you've got a mask on. Right.
It's a part of the whole hypocritical part of this, is that if this is so serious, we've got dates in here out to March. If it's so serious, we're gonna allow this to go on for the next 2 months of monkey screwing around. And the problem is the Supreme Court in 3 days may throw it out.
Right.
Right. Yeah.
They're only gonna hear it in 3 days, and then they're gonna take a while for their decision.
Yeah.
Exactly, and
One of the concerns I had, Commissioner Johnson, is that, everything we're hearing suggests that employers needed to demonstrate good faith efforts to implement it prior to January 10th. So this is obviously your last board meeting before the 10th. So we felt, hey, we needed to bring you this policy and get things rolling. So we're showing those good faith efforts.
Mr. Chair, one of my other questions would be, if you talked about it earlier, and we kind of threw the number out, potentially 100 people in this
Yeah.
county that are unvaccinated
Yeah.
employees.
Yeah.
Are we prepared if half to 2/3 of those decide they're walking? I mean, we see it in teaching staff. We certainly see it in the medical field. CentraCare's down 1,100 nurses. I mean, this goes back and forth. What are we gonna do if we have 2/3 of our people walk out the door?
Sure. I use the phrase, I cross each bridge as I get to it. But, I think, and I said this in a recent management team meeting, is I don't think we should ever do anything which compromises essential county services, ever. Our public would never forgive us.
Right.
So I think we'd be very reluctant to send folks home in mass and somehow compromise, for example, dispatch, sheriff's office, plowing roads, et cetera.
There
Child
again,
protection.
but that puts in front of us the ETS decision, is that we're gonna abide by this, but by the heck, if it really hurts us locally, we're gonna change our mind.
Well,
That,
I would think necessity would require that we would do that.
Right.
And I think, again, I don't know our citizens would ever forgive us for
they absolutely
not
would
plowing
not.
the roads or not responding to a sheriff's call or not protecting the child who's in danger of harm or abuse. I don't think anyone would ever forgive us for that. So again, I think we have to keep people working as necessary and do our best to implement it.
And we may be facing a deal where our employees are not gonna forgive us either by identifying who they are. With face coverings and giving information out to supervisors who are gonna have to monitor this, because that just went against the
Our
privacy
policy.
part of HR and the HR
Could be
assistant.
everybody wearing a mask.
I hear what you're saying. I mean, it's someone can draw some conclusions about a person. I mean, obviously, we're not directly saying, hey, this person is vaccinated or not, but people will draw conclusions.
And I think, to your point, Jared, is what about the vaccinated people? Vaccinated people are gonna say, what do you mean? Why am I wearing a mask? Why did I get vaccinated?
Right.
Say, why aren't you being tested?
I mean,
Yeah.
it's a very slippery slope they've got us stuck in here.
Mr. Chair, a couple comments on Commissioner Johnson. And Commissioner Pop. I agree 100% with the equality. We spent a whole year on being equal to other counties during our class and comp study. The two businesses or two professions that you just brought up, center care and teaching, the people that could come back to those positions in a year, they still got their certifications, they still couldn't come back and be a nurse or be a teacher at any time. We as a county lose these people. What are the chances they're coming back here after they found a job? Probably not. We're in a horrible situation.
It puts all of us in a horrible situation, and unfortunately, it's gonna put everybody in a horrible situation, just not us, but other counties too.
Yep.
Commissioner Schlangen, you got questions?
I have a lot of questions, a lot of concerns. Okay, as a elected official, I have taken an oath to support the Constitution of both the United States and Minnesota, and to assure everybody's rights under both documents. And, okay, the first one I started was Benton County asserts that a vaccination, the first paragraph, and where it starts out with Benton County asserts that a vaccination is a vital tool to reduce the presence and severity of COVID-19 cases in the workplace and communities, as a vital tool, communities, the nation as a whole. This vaccination has not been FDA approved. We do not have a PDR reference for it. We do not have an informed, therefore, we do not have an informed consent to even look at to see what's in this vaccine. And I would not take it until I could see it.
Could I get clarification on that of what you just said?
The FDA
That
has
it's
not approved
FDA.
it.
FDA has
Not a
approved it
physician's
100%.
desk reference.
They have approved it.
It's been approved.
FDA has not approved it.
Yes, a long, long time
No, it has
ago.
not. There is no physician's desk reference to look at, because it's not been approved by the, it's an
I tend to
experiment.
differ with you on
It's an
that.
experimental,
I tend to differ on you. FDA has looked at this very cautiously and approved it well over a year ago.
no, it has not.
It depends on where you're reading your
There is
information.
not a
Okay, I think we're gonna,
vaccine
I
that
think-
has been approved out yet.
okay, I think we're gonna move on with the next
Well,
question.
Okay?
Go ahead, Commissioner Schlangen.
All right, the next one. Benton County encourages all employees to receive COVID vaccination to protect themselves and others. The
Okay,
people that even have the vaccine, they do not consider immune from, it doesn't make you immune from getting COVID.
that is correct.
Right,
That is correct.
yes.
All it does is, okay, so I'm trying to understand where you're going with this on that sentence that you just read to us.
Right, so the vaccine does not give you the immunity from getting COVID.
Okay,
So they're saying that the ones that are not vaccinated are the ones that have to keep being tested and wearing a mask, but you are just as vulnerable as anybody else.
The,
So,
but, so that is incorrect information. Go ahead, Jared.
believe me, I believe everybody need to have a choice in this matter, but unfortunately, we are not at that point. The numbers, however, from vaccinated and unvaccinated when it comes to our own central care health system are enormous, that the ones that are taking up ICU beds are 5-1 unvaccinated versus vaccinated, and they're the ones that are most severe. So, do I think that everybody should be mandated? No. That's not my choice at this point. This is my choice. But, go ahead. I just wanted to clarify.
Okay, so I have a problem with being mandated to wear a mask for those that are not vaccinated, and the ones that are vaccinated don't need to wear a mask. So,
I think we share, we all share the same opinion about that. But one thing we have to understand, this is coming from OSHA. This is OSHA regulated.
and
You know.
yes, and this is government putting mandates on
Federal
people.
government, that is correct.
Right, and they have said that they're leaving it up to the state. So our OSHA has now come up with this. So our state is one that's participating. So, and then, let's see, employers. Okay, and then,
Are we going paragraph through paragraph
see.
through all 5 pages? I just want to be clear about this, so
okay,
please
so the face,
get the
okay,
high
the face
points.
covering thing. Why are the ones that have not tested positive wearing a face mask?
That is something we probably can't answer.
Yeah.
Okay, so a lot of these
So that doesn't make a
questions.
whole lot of sense. If it's only the unvaccinated that are always tested and they are not showing positive, but they have to wear a face mask. Okay, and then there's face masks. I wore one of those Humana face masks once going into the grocery store. And you take it's like wearing an N95 mask. And when you take a breath, the thing's sucked right into your face. And then you let go and it leaves your face. And by the time I got out of that store, I was taking off that mask and taking deep breaths to recover. To somebody who does not have it and put that on them to compromise their respiratory system, it does not sound right.
Next.
Next.
Well, I'm just saying, everything that you're
I'll
talking.
just put it at that.
Everything that you're talking about is regulated through OSHA, and we have no choice. Unfortunately,
Well,
that's
like
the
I'm
bad
saying,
situation.
we have a choice to uphold our Constitution and at least wait till the Supreme Court gets done with it.
That is true, but our choice is gonna be, if we don't follow the ETS guidelines and everything, at a mandatory of 14,000 per employee, and if 100 chose not to, that's $140,000 the first incident.
4 million.
And once they come into the door, they will always be coming into the door. I can honestly tell you that from previous experiences, so this is gonna be an ongoing issue. And unfortunately, we're gonna have to somehow deal with all of this.
It's widely acknowledged that OSHA has limited resources, but my bet is that they will aggressively enforce this. And employees who are concerned about our enforcement of it could themselves make calls to the Department of Labor.
Correct.
And that could lead to investigations and sanctions. So my impression is that they will aggressively enforce this as best they can.
Mr. Chair, I don't think anybody's disagreeing with your points.
We're not.
And
It's-
I'll go down to let's go to page 2 and talk about the weekly testing. The PCR test is very questionable in the first place. It's not supposed to be used to diagnose a vaccine. If it's set at a rate of under 40 and you have a positive test, you're showing that your DNA has changed. So they're considering it a positive test. And would they accept somebody that, okay, so if you've already had COVID, you're supposed to have natural immunity and test for antibodies, and if they're positive, is that gonna be an okay test?
No,
So, somebody that's already had it, has all the immunity, they're still being treated as somebody that's highly accessible.
that is correct, because it has been proven that once you have it, and if you're not vaccinated, you will get it again. I personally know two people that are not vaccinated that got it the first time, and they all say this immunity system is built up in them, they'll never get it again. They got it again. And it was even, the second time around was worse.
Yep.
So that's incorrect information.
Then, so you're not gonna accept natural immunity
No,
with it.
that is not proven anyway.
So then everybody should be regularly tested, and this test doesn't work. So what kind of a test is gonna show that, so even if you had a test that showed you had the antibodies, that's not gonna be acceptable? Yeah, it's just crazy.
It is crazy, but the antibodies only stay in your system for 2 months.
I mean, well, if you tested and you're still positive with it,
I should just note here under
So-
the OSHA ethics.
so that's not a test you can take.
So once
antibody-
again,
Antibody tests are not acceptable.
right,
Right.
so
So a
once again.
PCR is not acceptable, an antigen test isn't acceptable.
An antigen test is. It says antigen test may also meet the definition under this standard.
So what's an antigen test?
I'm not a medical professional, so I'm not qualified to describe that.
So, and they're not accepting an antigen test.
No, they are
Antigen tests are acceptable.
acceptable.
Right.
Are-
Those are typically those
But-
rapid tests, if I recall correctly.
Yeah,
Okay,
administered by others.
Others,
Right.
that is correct. Can't do it
Yeah.
yourself.
okay, so you're not accepting the test that says you have adequate antibodies.
No.
No,
That's what the FAQs say. Yeah.
So, yeah, that doesn't make a whole lot of sense.
next question.
Yeah,
A lot of these questions should be
yeah,
dictated to OSHA instead of us, because they're the ones setting the guidelines.
right, yeah.
You
So
know,
they're
so-
just,
Dr. Fauci.
you don't have
Yeah.
informed consent, you have,
We don't have him here.
We're not here.
yeah.
We invited him, but he's not here.
Okay, and so you're going through the, okay, down to part 4. And the hours and stuff about coming back to work, and so after somebody's had a vaccination, you're saying they can immediately come right back to work?
If they feel well and are able to work, yes, yes.
Okay, so, and then the next paragraph, you're only gonna allow 2 days of PTO if they do have symptoms?
No.
Well, the standard requires us to provide 2 paid days, although it recognizes that employee may require more time, but we're not required to offer that as paid time. I think that's really a discretionary call on a case-by-case basis. So if a person says, hey, I'm still not feeling well after 2 days, you could grant more time for them to recover.
Clarification.
If they're having symptoms, that they have to wait 10 days afterwards?
Clarification, that is just after you get vaccinated.
Shot, yeah.
So
yeah.
you're showing actively that you've got symptoms, you're not gonna come to work when you have symptoms, so you don't have to wait the 10 days?
No, this is just for, if you go in today and you get your shot and you don't feel good tomorrow and the next day, you get those 2 days off
Because of the side.
because of the side effects.
Feeling sick.
Because of the side effects. Then you
And
can
then-
get more time off if you request it. That is
And
correct.
how many days after the side effects can they come back to work?
They could come back to work the
The
next day
next
if they
day,
want.
if they want to work through it.
Okay,
Yep,
so
there
they
is
don't
no
have to
time
go
frame.
through a 10-day,
There is no time
Symptoms.
frame. Anything else?
all right, then
You've
it
got
was down
more?
to the, well, under the return to work criteria. Okay, so if you have a negative test result, you can work. If you have a positive test result and you have no symptoms, it says you have to stay away for 10 days?
That's what it
Correct,
says.
that's what it says.
Okay,
If you have a question, I'd defer to Johanna. I know she's really
Yep.
our expert on this
Okay.
matter of quarantine and isolation, so on and so forth. And again, those guidances are that's evolving. So
so I do have a problem with not testing the people that have had the shot too, because they could be testing positive too, because they are also,
Okay, I think
Acceptable.
this is one thing that you truly have to understand, is that this is OSHA guidelines. This is not us. This is OSHA telling us.
so
what
a
we should be
weekly
doing.
test for somebody
This is
that's
OSHA
healthy.
telling us what we've got to do. So I think a lot of these questions could be brought towards Johanna
Okay, I do have a question for you.
and/or OSHA.
With your,
Go ahead, Johanna.
Johanna, could you please come up to the mic, please?
do you know about the testing materials?
Can I comment first though on
Please.
your first section?
Okay.
Please do.
When the ETS was written, CDC guidelines were different, so this mirrors at the time what they were. And so if you look at the next paragraph, it says that we will follow whatever the CDC guidelines are. They have changed twice since this was written already, so I think that might be where some of the confusion
Okay.
is. And it changed again last week and may change again next week.
Correct.
So I spend hours every week making sure that we are up to date on those CDC guidelines, and I will follow those. It does make a difference if the employee is vaccinated or unvaccinated on the protocols.
Yep.
Symptoms, though, it doesn't make a difference. If they have symptoms, they have to stay home until it's proven not to be.
Regardless of vaccinated or unvaccinated.
Correct.
Have you done any testing, or do you do tests through the county?
I am not a medical provider, so no.
The
The county has
Answer-
never set up testing
no
yet.
testing?
No, they haven't.
No, I help people on a daily basis identify places to test, or help them schedule, whatever I can to help give them information, but I have not administered, and neither has our public health administered tests for Benton County employees.
Okay, also, if you're gonna be tested, you need to know what isn't, you have to see the packaging for the swabs to see what are in them, to have an informed consent, to know what you're having put into your body. And this PCR test is not real valid anyway. Okay. Let's see.
Which paragraph are we on now?
Oh, the supervising of the test then. So if you were able to get this equipment, would you have the packaging for people to be able to see, to have the informed consent, to know what's you're using?
I think we've already discussed that is
Also-
something we at the county are not going to absorb that
Oh, okay,
cost.
you're not gonna do that.
No, that's correct. That was mentioned about a half hour ago.
Okay, and that's just the face covering again. I think,
I think we,
there have been a lot of miscarriages and stillbirths in the women that have gotten these injections. It's skyrocketed.
I think we,
And I think if you keep putting this stuff into your body, you're gonna have that, and then it brings on the next one, so it just keeps perpetuating the problem, is what I can see.
Commissioner Schlangen, I think we all agree with everything you're saying. We really do. All of us up here have the same opinions. The problem is, we have no choice with OSHA. OSHA controls this and dictates this and is telling us
Yes.
what to do. If we do not follow their guidance, if it is put in place after January 7th, they're knocking on our door
At
and we are
14,000.
gonna be paying a heavy price for this.
A couple comments, Mr. Chair. This is no different than the tabs you put on your vehicle.
Yep.
That's mandated.
Yep.
That the parameters that fall within property taxes, There's so many parameters that get pushed down to us that we have no say on. This is one of
No
them.
say.
And we are not saying that this is going to be the letter of the law moving forward past the 10th. But we need to do something to show we're in good faith for OSHA by the 10th, or we could be in jeopardy. And as elected officials, we need to act within the duty of our position. And it is very clear to me, even though I don't agree with it, we need to move forward with this because of it's being mandated. It'd be no different than us sitting up here saying, the state of Minnesota wants us to pay, our property tax, and we all choose a board to say, Benton County, we're not gonna collect it this year. I don't think that would go over very well. And we're in the same boat right now.
You know, just one final comment here. OSHA maintains this excellent FAQ page, and I'll email you all the link. It can answer many of your questions
Right.
about this.
I
and-
looked at the report that came out from, if you want me to go over some statistics that I found off of that from
I-
the one we got from Jim.
So at this point in time, statistics and everything is something that we are not going to deal with at this point in time. Unfortunately, that is for questions for you and Johanna and/or for OSHA.
Okay.
Seeing
Auntie-
way too many people
Did you have a question?
dying yet.
No. I just wanted to mention if you're inclined to approve this policy this morning, I want to just point out something that's in the suggested motion. That is that the implementation is subject to suspension if the OSHA ETS is stated or otherwise ruled invalid by the court. So
Right.
Yes.
I wouldn't want to forget that as part of your possible motion, that it is subject to suspension depending on what the court does later this week.
Correct. Mr. Chair.
Right. Yep.
And of course,
Commissioner,
if the court says, then we'll put the brakes on and we'll halt.
correct, yep, Commissioner Johnson.
Two hypothetical questions for you, Monty. What if you do not get approval for this policy today? / what if it's tabled until the Supreme Court acts?
Well, you know, I think it's just an indication of our county's good faith efforts to move forward with implementation, because again, the ETS is in place today. We're required to begin implementing it today, even though the court's gonna hear it on the 7th. To me, again, it's a measure of good faith. You could certainly choose to delay, and some counties may do that. So it would require possibly an emergency meeting or a special meeting to get it adopted, you know, so. Johanna, what did you repeat that again? What did you whisper in my ear?
One of the things I just wanted to correct, that there was a comment made, if we don't pass a policy or have a policy in place, decide not to do it, follow it, we would have a fine for every employee we have, not just our unvaccinated, because I wouldn't even have a list of which employees are vaccinated or unvaccinated to produce to OSHA if they were at our door. And that would be every time they come. So they could
It's
come.
280 times 14,000.
Yeah, and then a month later, 30 days, they give us time, we would
Right.
get that same fine again if we're still not in compliance.
Right.
So,
When are they asking for these fines to start?
February,
yeah, the February
The
7th.
OSHA announced that it was not going to do any enforcement actions on the
February
vaccination
10th.
aspect before January 10th. And then sanctions possibly on the testing aspect would not start till I think February, I think it's 9th,
yeah,
about a month later.
9th or
Right.
10th,
So
correct.
they, again, so again, they have announced that sanctions could begin as of January 10th.
The problem is it takes time to get all of these cards in.
Yeah.
Mr. Chair.
Johanna.
If you're okay, that was what I wanted to point out, is if this policy is approved today, between now and the 10th, the 12th, the 15th, whenever the Supreme Court, we would be working on is communicating with the employees, getting the form out that the employee needs to fill out. Those who want to can start submitting those vaccination records. That's what would be happening between now and then. So that's why Monty and I felt it was a good idea to bring this now, so we could start that, because it's gonna take a long time.
Mr. Chair, Joanna, do you need this policy to start that process?
Yes.
yes,
Well, the ETS requires us to have an
Yes.
adopted policy.
yeah.
We're absolutely
This is
required to
once
have it.
again required.
Yep.
Because of the protected medical data, we have not been retaining any documentation on vaccination status to date.
Any more questions for Monty or Johanna? Monty, question?
No, that concludes my information presentation.
Mr. Chair, I'm going to make a motion to table this decision until after the Supreme Court reviews this coming up on the 7th. And if we need to, we'll pull a special meeting after that.
I'll second.
We got a motion and a second. Any further discussion? I'll call the question. All in favor, say aye.
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 Sorry, Commissioner.
Johnson,
Who's the second?
Uh,
Who's the second?
Beth.
Okay.
Those opposed? Aye.
Who was it? Oh, we had three.
Yep, three this side.
Okay, so it's
Heininger
not
and
tabled
Pop.
then. Okay.
Motion fails.
Okay.
Mr. Chair, I'll make a motion to approve this policy.
And I will second it.
Could you please read it, just for clarification?
The emergency temporary standard of vaccination and testing policy adopted or potentially adopted January 4th, 2022.
Okay, we got a motion and a second. Any further discussion? I'll call the question. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Us three.
Okay.
Opposed.
Aye.
Aye.
Okay. Thanks.
Motion passes. This is
Hear
gonna
any
be a
news?
heated discussion going on through months.
Right.
As we hear news, we'll let you know as soon as we hear something.
And Mr. Chair, I think we're all completely in agreement that there's a lot of wording in here. And I know this isn't under the other communication that we should have did, but I see the no's reasons and I see the yes reasons. And I'm just scared about us going into not having the time. OSHA comes in and they start making examples of people that didn't act in good faith. That's what I'm afraid of. And I've seen it happen before. It's happened to me in business.
Same here.
One thing I worry about is that, we're all on the same team here.
Yeah.
And I just don't want to see this policy turn us into adversaries with our own employees. That would be a shame. And I just don't want that to happen. Again, this is being imposed externally. It's not Benton County. So, again, I hope all folks keep that in mind. And I was thinking is that, HR is going to be kind of in the line of fire on this issue. And I hope we all can support them. It's not going to be easy, and employees may be inclined to vent their ire at HR. So please, I ask you and all of our departments to give their support to HR, please.
With a further note, we've already, some of us have been receiving emails about this too. So we know this is gonna keep going on.
And that's true. In a free society, you're going to get emails from lots of folks. And, again, I just urge them to contact HR and, the message about it's externally imposed and so on and so forth, or refer their questions to Johanna or me. I do hate to see that you all get bombarded, but again, that's the price we pay for email in a free society, so.
Mr. Chair, if I could, just one
Yes.
quick comment, and just so my fellow members know this,
Yep.
my no vote is in no way indicative of your yes vote.
No.
No,
Right.
no.
I think you understand in the last year, I'm a big proponent of some unity amongst this board. So that's not my position.
Absolutely.
It's my personal decision against this ETS.
Yep,
Yep.
Just want you to be aware of that.
absolutely.
Totally understood. Thank you.
All
Moving
right.
on.
Are we ready to move on? Okay.
Appoint an interim county assessor.
I think I have an apology, is that I
We'll
discovered.
we'll go back to your first one after we do this.
Let's have an apology first. It appears that the agenda item for this is not in some of the physical packets.
Really?
The agenda item is in the posted agenda
I have it
on the
online.
website, but I don't believe it's in some of the physical packets. So my apology for that. You do have the agenda item though that was signed by Michelle. So of course, as we know, our assessor is leaving us at the end of this week, and the board needs to appoint an interim to serve in that capacity until the board appoints a permanent assessor. That could take 2 or 3 months. Stephen Bearbrinker has agreed to serve as our interim assessor. Steve did this for us back in 2018 for about 3 or 4 months. when we lost Brian Kester, did an outstanding job. As you know, Steve is a local assessor. He actually does contract work for us, doing the city of Sauk Rapids, city of Foley, and I believe a couple of townships. He has agreed to serve as our interim assessor at the same rate he charges back in 2018, essentially doing more or less the same thing. And so the agreement, and again, I apologize if it's not in your packet, was drafted by Michelle and has been signed off by Steve. So we are good to go there, and he is all ready to get started with assisting those folks. So really, there's two parts to this motion, Mr. Chair. One is to appoint Stephen C. Barenbrinker as our interim assessor, and then the second is to approve the professional services agreement with Steve.
Mr. Chair, I
Yes.
make a motion to approve Steve Barenbrink as our intern assessor. He did a great job in 2018 for those of us that were here. And he's well respected within the community.
Absolutely.
You approve the compensation that goes with that.
I'll second both that.
Okay, we got a motion and a second. Any further discussion on that? I'll call the question. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Second part of the motion,
I think we covered.
did we
both.
cover it?
Yep.
Yep.
Okay,
Oh,
thank
that
you.
essentially was a 2-for-1. Okay. Got it. Just taking notes here. I think that wraps it up for me. A little behind schedule here.
I think we knew that was gonna happen. Okay, moving forward, Human Services Board, we'll call the order of the county board, I'm sorry. The county board chair now will entertain a motion
10:23.
to select a Human Services Board chair.
Mr. Chair, I nominate Vice Chair Commissioner Johnson to serve as Human Services Board Chair.
I'll second.
We got a motion and a second. Any further discussion on that? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Okay, I'll turn it over to the Human Services Board Chair, Commissioner Johnson.
Thank you, Commissioner Heinen. Our first act is to select a vice chair for 2022 for the Human Services Board. I'll open up for nominations.
All volunteer,
It's not a volunteer.
It's not a volunteer.
volunteer?
It's gotta be a motion.
Yep.
Again, I'll open up nominations for a vice chair for Human Services for 2022.
I'll make a motion to nominate Commissioner Gopinski.
And I'll second that.
Okay, I have a motion and a second to nominate Commissioner Kapinski as the vice chair for Human Services. Any other nominations? Hearing none, all those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? It's carried. We'll move on to approval or amendments to our agenda. Bob, do you have anything to add to our agenda today? Okay, members, any questions for Bob? All right, we'll need a motion to approve our agenda, please.
So moved. As presented.
Yeah. And is there a second?
Second.
Yep.
All right, all those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed, it's carried. Move on to setting the 2022 Human Services Board meeting dates and times. Those are in front of you. Typically in
And
the past,
essentially, it mirrors county board, and again, hopefully you've got the one that's corrected for December, but otherwise, all the same as county board. Yep.
all right.
Motion to approve.
Second.
We have a motion and a second to approve our 2022 Benton County Human Services Board meetings, which do mirror the county board meetings. Any other discussion?
What's the second?
Hearing none, all those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed, it's carried. Bob, anything else?
Just wanted to show up and see who the lucky commissioner was.
All right. Thank you.
I don't have anything else.
I got a question for Bob. Have you seen the increase in positive cases in Benton County? Do you guys get any of those numbers?
Yes, Jacqueline gives us regular updates every Monday. And yes, we are seeing increases in our population. So I probably could have had her come to give you an update on it. Maybe I should just, that be a standing.
That,
Yes.
that might be good for, at least the next month or so,
Okay.
as we see this, play out.
I don't see that she's on, so, okay, I will do that.
Members, any other questions for Bob?
What is your role when you see a positive case?
My role is to quickly turn it over to Johanna, to HR, I should say.
And how do they-
We have all been instructed to, anytime there's a situation where somebody may have COVID, or there are any questions, they are referred to HR.
So that's for employees and the whole county?
No, just
No,
employees. Yeah.
just-
Just employees.
Just employees?
Yep.
Yes.
Okay.
I do believe that everything else is handled. If there's a positive test and so forth, it goes to the the MDH.
Yep.
And they,
It does.
So do we have a lot of employees with COVID?
I wouldn't know that.
Yeah.
We couldn't tell you
That
anything.
is
couldn't tell you.
correct.
Yep.
That's restricted information.
Yeah.
Okay.
That it's private, so.
Members, any other questions for Bob? All right, thank you. We'll move it
Thank you.
back to the county board chair.
Great job.
27.
Thank you, Commissioner Johnson. At this time, we've got Nadine, the Auditor Treasurer. Request approval to redesignate the Auditor Treasurer, the authority to designate depository banks for the Benton County funds. Nadine, are you with us? Nadine, are you with us?
I see she's online, but she might be actually.
She might be coming
physically
here.
joining us here in a second. Yeah.
There she is.
Good morning.
I think my board items will be much easier than what you just discussed.
Oh, we'll find out. Thank you for joining us.
Yeah. All right, so I have a couple of annual things that we do every year at this time. The first thing is designating the auditor treasurer, the designated person for the depository banks, accounts that we have here in the county. So I provided a list of banks, that I would like to use this year for depositing funds or, use as investing funds. I have added a couple of items to this list from last year. One is Bremer Bank. Bremer Bank has a location in Rice within the county, and so I would like to establish a relationship with Bremer Bank and see what they can offer the county as far as interest rates and such on CDs. The other ad is Morton Capital Markets. It's an investment company. We currently have one investment company, Wells Fargo Advisors, that the county has been using for several years, and I would like to explore the option of seeing what this other investment company could offer the county as far as rates go as well.
Nadine, I've asked this every year. How come there's so many banks?
So we actually, I know it looks like a lot. We've actually decreased this list. We don't have any accounts anymore in US Bank, and we do not have any accounts anymore in Wells Fargo Banking. So we did eliminate those two banks from our listing. And I know I'm asking to add another investment broker to the list as an option, and possibly Bremer Bank as an option. I just want to explore our options as far as where we can make the most money for the county's money. And so when you look at this list, Commissioner Heinen, like First National Bank of Malacca, that our banking relationship with them has gone back many, many years, and we only have a savings account with them and CDs with them. So a lot of the banks on this list, it's very limited. Either we're just invested in CDs with the bank, or we have a prime investment account with the bank to earn some interest on the money that the county has.
Maybe I could ask a question to Nadine. Nadine, is having multiple banks a function of the ability of any one bank to provide sufficient collateral to cover the cash that we have? So does that create the need to have multiple banks because of the collateral requirement?
Yeah, so as far as the collateral piece goes, some of the smaller banks have a hard time giving the collateral that we need for all the funds that we have. So by diversifying and having the county's money in some different accounts, then that local bank doesn't have to cover as much in collateral. Of course, as you know, collateral costs the bank money to protect our money. Thank you for bringing that up, Monty, but I think it's, what I've seen is that, how do I say this? Some banks are not as receptive to wanting to hold as much of the county's money and haven't been. Especially during tax collection when we have a lot of money coming in. I have been contacted by some of the banks where they have asked me to move the funds out because they don't want to cover the collateral. So that does create a lot of additional work on our end to move those funds around. Not all banks are as receptive to having a large amount of money from the county sitting in their bank.
Mr. Chair.
Thank you for that clarification.
Thank you.
Commissioner Kapinski.
Nadine, is it possible maybe next year we could look at maybe putting a percentage on there by each one? Like let's just say Franzen has 15%, and that way we see.
I guess as long as you're looking for a rough estimate.
Oh, yeah, no, we don't have to have it down to the penny, but just a rough ballpark.
Sure, yeah, I absolutely can do that.
Mr. Chair. I like that.
Commissioner Pop.
I think that it's really good that he added that Morton Capital Market, because we definitely need to have more than one investment broker looking at this.
Yeah,
That's a good part.
yep,
And with that, I'll make approval that we, the board chair signs the list of institutions being submitted for Benton County's depositories.
Second.
Okay, we got a motion and a second. Any further discussion on this item? If not, I'll call the question. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Okay, Nadine, request approval for the designation of the official newspaper for Benton County.
yep, so this is, of course, an annual request. The board is required to publish certain publications in a newspaper. And the publications that we put in the paper, that we're required to put in the paper, the board then has to select who we're going to use to provide that service. So we have two local papers, Benton County News and Sauk Rapids Herald. We have received bids from them. They are proposing a 3% increase for the new year in publication costs. However, once again, they are willing to offer us that discount of 30% if we continue to put the publication in both papers. So I did get some updated circulation numbers from Joyce at the paper. So the Benton County News circulation is about $13.79 right now. The subscription for the Benton County News is $38 for the year. And she was saying that was the cost for the 21 year. She's guessing that the publication cost for the Benton County News is going to be $40 for the 22 year. And again, the circulation is right around $1,300. The Sauk Rapids Herald has a larger circulation. Currently, the circulation is just over 5,000. And the information that she has provided me with is that subscription is free for residents in Sauk Rapids, Rice or Sartell zip code. Anybody outside of that area has to subscribe to the Sauk Rapids Herald, which is she's saying it's going to be approximately $52 in the 22 year to subscribe to the Herald. Do you have any questions about that? If not, I would ask for you to consider the bids that we've received for the Herald and the Benton County News and whether or not you want to have the publications published in both papers going forward for the 22 year.
Mr. Chair, I'll move approval of the Benton County News and the Sauk Rapids Herald, both as designated newspapers for the county for the year 2022.
And I'll second that.
Okay, we've got a motion and a second. Any further discussion? Commissioner Pop?
Yes, as you know, and we've vented this well before, that we feel that by covering both newspapers, we get the entire county covered.
Correct.
At people's wishes, and I think we went round and round on that, and I think it's a great thing for the county. That, I think we're just lucky that the Sauk Rapids Herald is distributing that much. I guess I'm a little surprised that their circulation is only 5,000 people. I thought it would have been well above that, being it's a free subscription and based on advertising.
That's households.
Yeah, but even
That's
so.
only a free subscription for the 3 zip codes.
It's correct, for the 3 cities.
Yeah, I mean, I guess I would have thought it would have been in that 7,000 to 8,000. But so evidently not everybody sends in their
Free
free
subscription.
subscription
yeah.
deal, you know. So, that was my comment.
Thank you for that comment. Any further comments, discussions? We got a motion and a second. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
It's approved. Thank you, Nadine.
Thank you.
Next, consider the establishment of Benton County Absentee and Uninformed and Overseas Citizen Absentee Voting Act.
That's a mouthful.
It was.
Say that
I'm
one
glad
more
I
time.
glad I made that.
Yeah. All right, so this is a requirement as we're going into a election year. This year, we are required by statute to establish an absentee ballot board for absentee ballots and UACAVA, which would be the short answer. This is required of us that we do this. We just wanted to get a head start on this and get this taken care of now. Do you have any questions regarding the absentee ballot board or the UACAVA ballot board? Those boards are made up of deputized staff within our office or election judges. They're the people that are authorized to serve on the ballot board when we get the absentee ballots in. The UACAVA ballots are, of course, coming from overseas. Most of the time when we see UACAVA ballots, they're from the military that are still U.S. residents and citizens of the United States, but they're overseas and they're requesting to vote. So that's what the UACAVA absentee ballots are, overseas ballots coming in for those elections, and then, of course, the absentee ballots that we receive within our office that need to be processed during the election cycle.
Any questions for Nadine on that?
Yes.
Commissioner Schlangen?
Do you choose from the election judges first for a balance?
So at this time, we have not identified who we're going to have serve on the ballot board. We have a little bit of time before we make that decision. So in prior year in 2020, to eliminate the number of people coming in the office because of COVID, my deputized staff were serving as the absentee ballot board in the 2020. But we can choose from both, but we haven't made that determination yet.
And I'm assuming that determination will once again be because of COVID and everything else that is happening, correct?
Yeah, we will have to take a look at the guidelines coming to us again from the state and the recommendations going forward now for this election in '22. I think there will be several things that will be looked at once again because of COVID and the controversy from, previous year election as well. So we're gonna wanna make sure that we are following all the statutory requirements coming to us from the state and their guidelines, and making sure that we have everything in order and in place so that Benton County does not have any issues during the election time.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Going by past statutes that are in law?
I'm sorry, say it one more time.
statutes that
Statutes.
have been approved by,
That,
submitted by law, and so it's a state statute.
yeah,
Yes, it is.
yep, so the state gives us our guidelines, and our training, we, train, for, the elections. There's training, required training, so many hours of training that we have to do. And the state has already started to give us some guidance too regarding, the upcoming elections and the redistricting for 2022. So, there will probably be some changes made there, and we will stay on top of those changes to make sure we're fulfilling the obligations that we need to fulfill with the elections.
Thank you.
And the next election is probably August for the primary?
Yep, for the primary, we actually have township elections coming up here in March.
Yep.
Those, require, as the townships are in charge of their own elections, they are the administrator of their elections. We just provide support and guidance to them when they have questions. But they pretty much run their own elections for the township elections. And then, we'll get through that, and then we'll be working on redistricting. And then, yes, the primary in August and the, general election in November.
Mr. Chair, I'm going to approve a resolution establishing the Benton County Absentee and UO Ballot Board for 2022.
I'll second.
Got a motion and a second. Any further discussion? I'll call the question. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Passes. Thank you.
Thank you.
Next.
So, Mr. Chair, this next item could require substantial time. Would you like a short break?
Okay, we'll take a 2-minute recess. Thank you. And you thought this last year we had some issues that we had to
Oh,
take care of.
boy.
It's just begun,
Yeah.
you know, it's just begun, but it's really about understanding the process.
All set?
Okay, is everybody ready?
Oh,
We'll
I guess I'm not
reconvene.
the chair anymore.
Okay, I'm sorry.
It's
As I
a
look
hard
at
habit.
Commissioner- yeah, as I look
Oh,
at
boy,
Commissioner
yeah.
Pop, I'm waiting for him to reconvene, so I guess at this point in time, I'll reconvene our regular board meeting.
So, Mr. Chair, this is of course the time to review your assignments to boards and commissions. Got the list here, it's updated as best we can make it. I know there's two other possibilities that are sort of outside this right now, a possible discussion, I just want to mention this so we don't forget. A discussion about possible appointment to the Fair Board, and there's also some possible discussion about some affiliation with the Soil and Water Board.
Correct.
So just want to make sure we don't forget those two. And
Yes, we'll take both the park and,
so maybe you want to just do those at the end? Yeah, do those in. So, Mr. Chair, typically our board chair has just taken us through these one by one, and I'll just take notes as you discuss.
okay, hopefully I have the updated version in writing here in front of me.
Yeah, there have been no changes to it since it went to the packet.
First is the Benton County Extension Committee. We have Commissioner Johnson, Commissioner Pop on that.
I'm good.
I'm good.
Any concerns? Okay. Benton County Law Library, that is me. Career Solutions, right now it's Commissioner Schlangen and myself. I'll just be honest, they asked for a new commissioner to be put on that board. Commissioner Schlangen, it's really up to you to determine that, because you are put to that board. I need your input.
I would like to be on the board.
Okay, if you are appointed back to that board, you'll have to go through training and everything, just so you understand. Okay. They're not gonna like me, but we'll leave it as is, thank you. Career Solution Leadership, that's me, I will be on that. Let's see, Central Minnesota Economic Development, 7W District, Commissioner Pop.
Yeah, I don't think we met last year.
Okay. Central Minnesota Emergency Medical Services Board, Commissioner Gopinski, alternate Pop.
Painful, I'll do it. We've
Yeah,
really
you
got
did- you
nothing
did
to
a-
say on that.
You did a pretty good job, because I didn't have to go. I think that's the first year I didn't have to attend 1A since I've been,
I think we got 90, well, I think I might have missed one, but
okay.
it was, no, actually, we're 100 on both of those, the next one too.
Yeah, Central Minnesota Emergency Services Board, formerly the Regional Radio Board, Commissioner Gopinski, alternate me.
Yep. I'll keep it.
Beth
Cool.
says your mic isn't on.
Yeah, I just turned it on, thank
Okay,
you.
Thanks.
I just realized that. Coalition Advancing Health Families, also referred to as the Central Minnesota Home Visiting Coalition Board, Commissioner Schlangen.
I have not seen any notices of any meetings for the whole year.
Okay, do you still want to be on it in case they do have timeframes?
Yeah, if
Okay,
they do.
thank you. Community Unity Adult Mental Health Initiative Joint Powers Board. I am the alternate, and Bob, I believe, is the main one on that one. Great Regional Library Board of Directors, we've got Commissioner Pop, Commissioner Schlangen as an alternate.
Where are you at?
I
Oh,
think you
we
may
missed
have
one.
one.
East Central Regional
Yeah.
Juvenile.
Okay, that I don't
I don't
have.
have that either.
I don't
Huh,
have
it's
that
on
on
mine.
mine.
Yeah, I've got it on mine. Is that the new
Right,
Anoka deal?
correct.
So this is the Anoka, right, yes. And
I see it's
um,
it is on your laptop.
Are they looking for somebody then?
Yes, actually, the joint powers agreement requires us to
Two.
appoint two members to an advisory board. And it's a non-voting advisory board to Anoka County. Helps them, looks like, again,
Oh, I see.
according to the joint powers agreement, you help
Follow
with their
that.
budget, their daily rate they charge the member counties, and facility programs. And I am trying to find an email here that, from them, where I asked, when do they meet? And I hope I can find it. As I want to be able to tell you, doggone it, I cannot find it.
So is that something we can hold off until we find out when they meet? Because it could
Yeah.
Yeah.
conflict with other
point.
meetings.
Yeah.
Their budget should be done for the year.
It should be.
So could
I'm
we
sorry.
Table it
You
till
know,
next.
table it till the,
I would say, I'll keep trying to find this if
Okay.
you wanna continue on, and maybe by
Okay,
the.
we'll table that one for now, and then we'll move forward. Great River Regional Library Boards of Directors, we got Commissioner Pop, Commissioner Schlangen, alternate.
yeah, I'm good with that. I'm probably gonna be the chair this coming year anyway.
Commissioner Schlangen, you okay with the alternate?
Yes.
Thank you. Minden Township, City of St. Cloud, Orly Annexation, Joint Powers Board, Commissioner Schlangen, and myself as the alternate. You're good with that, Commissioner Schlangen?
Yes.
Minnesota County's Intergovernmental Trust, Commissioner Pop, and alternate Commissioner Gopinski.
Yep. I'm
Yes.
good with
Yep.
Minnesota Public Sector Collaboration of Joint Powers Board, Commissioner Gopinski.
I definitely am gonna stay on that just for the fact I think there's more stuff coming down this year for insurances and stuff like that.
Great. Okay, Park Commissions, Commissioner Pop.
Yeah, since both of them, two of the major parks are in my district.
That is correct. St. Cloud Area Joint Planning District Board, Commissioner Johnson, and myself as an alternate.
Fine, to my knowledge, we never met.
No, I've never seen anything. Thank you. St. Cloud Area Planning Organization Policy Board, Commissioner Gopinski and myself as the alternate. Yes?
Yep.
Thank you. Tri-County Solid Waste Management Commission, we've got Commissioner Pop and Commissioner Johnson. My question is why do we have two alternates on this one, Monty?
I am sorry,
Probably because we have two appointed.
I'm guessing, my hunch is, this is a pretty large board, and we have to have two members. My hunch is probably they were struggling with some quorum problems,
Okay,
so they want to make sure they had a pretty deep bench of alternates. That's my hunch.
okay, so we
So,
have
yeah.
Commissioner Schlangen and Commissioner Gopinski as alternate one and alternate two. Still good with that?
Yep.
AMC Agricultural and Rural Development Issues Advisory Committee, Commissioner Johnson.
Yep.
AMC Environmental Natural Resources Policy Committee, Commissioner Pop.
Yes.
AMC Extension Committee, Commissioner Pop.
If possible, can we have two of us on there?
No, because actually these appointments come through the district.
District, yep.
Okay.
Yeah, Felix will have to make them appointments, I believe, in the spring again.
The reason I ask, because it says board representation's optional, so I didn't know if we
Right.
could only have one or not. That's
Yeah,
fine.
I think we get two per district
Oh, okay.
that are on the AMC,
So District 5 has two.
no, I'm thinking on the extension.
Yeah, we're on the extension.
I don't think on the environment and natural resource, I think we could have another person on there.
Could probably have an alternate, huh?
Yeah, well, or even to attend.
I'm talking about the MC Extension Committee.
Yeah, we're on
Oh,
the AMC Extension Committee.
No, that is two per district.
Okay.
For the voting purposes.
Okay.
Okay, so we got clarification and Pop, you're good with that?
Yep.
AMC General Government Policy Committee, Commissioner Schlangen.
Good.
Yes?
Yes.
Yep. AMC Health and Human Services Policy Committees, myself. AMC Public Safety Policy Committee, Commissioner Gopinski. AMC State Emergency Communications Board,
Yep.
Commissioner Gopinski. AMC Transportation Policy Committee, Commissioner Johnson.
Yep.
AIS, Commissioner Pop.
Yep, I'm good with that one.
Benton County Broadband Committee, both Commissioner Johnson and Gopinski.
Yep.
Yep.
Benton County Criminal Justice Committee, Commissioner Heinen and Commissioner Schlangen. Yes?
Mr. Chair,
Yes.
some of the, just because some of the things that are going through the emergency management with relates to jail,
Yep.
a lot of that stuff does come through the emergency management side of the AMC. So just a thought out there for that, especially when it comes to mental health in jails. I know
Yeah,
there's
so
a
this-
lot of stuff going on.
This one does follow through your committee and it follows through my Human Services Committee because they tie hand in hand when we're at the AMC conference because we sit on the same the same committees are together on
Yeah.
that. Something to consider.
So, are you saying, Commissioner Kapinski, that you should sit on that committee too?
I'm throwing it out there because there's a lot of changes potentially coming, and they're flowing through the emergency management side and human services
Okay.
side. Just a thought, we can keep it as is if we want, but I think at some point we're gonna have to maybe relook at that.
I think you're right. I think we need some clarification on some of these committees of how
Yep.
they go hand in hand with human services and the committees you sit on, Commissioner
Yeah.
Kapinski.
So, when Commissioner Schlangen and Heinen are at the next Benton County Criminal Justice Committee meeting, would you question that if the EMS?
That is correct. The EMS person should actually be sitting on that one.
Right, would you
Along with myself.
question that and
Yes.
see if that's a recommendation of theirs?
Of course, we'd have to avoid a quorum, otherwise it's a public meeting.
That's
Right.
correct, yeah. I guess the question is this something Commissioner Schlangen would want to refrain from?
Does, Commissioner Schlangen, does any of your committees tie into this one? That you've got that ties into the County Criminal Justice Committee?
I'm not sure.
As I'm looking through the committees, no, it doesn't.
Do you think there's funding options there, Jared?
Well, I know that there's gonna be some funding that's being discussed on whether they should be regionalized on the medical or the mental health side of things, which we've been dealing with our own
Right.
jail.
Correct.
So, and them are being talked about in our emergency management side.
They are, okay.
Yep. Yep, and we've actually talked about that too in our Human Services Committee at AMC
So-
conference.
For now, can we note that we need to
Take a look
discuss
at
this a
that.
little bit deeper to see, what's the benefits to the county if we tie some of them together?
Yep.
Guess that'd be my recommendation at this point.
We can always relook at it next month or something.
Okay. Okay, Commissioner Schlangen, please take a look at that then to see if you serve on other committees, law enforcement and human services. Okay? Benton County Historical Society, yes, it's me. Benton County Labor Negotiation Committee, I think that one we've got Commissioner Pop and myself. Is this something, do we leave open for the fall when we go into negotiations with union contracts?
Well, I think you're gonna get some business here fairly soon because I
Okay.
think our unions may wanna negotiate aspects of the ETS. And of course, then all of our contracts expire in the 22, so it's gonna be a very busy fall for this group for negotiating new contracts, a substantial time commitment this fall. And I think once you start process, you
wanna
obviously
finish it.
need to stick with it. You can't, I don't think it's not a good idea to switch in the middle of the process. So, and it's gonna, of course, extend most likely into 23. It's not common for us to have all the contracts settled in the year in which they expire. Typically, they stretch months into the next year.
So then the follow-up question is that I know Commissioner Pop and myself are up for reelection this year. How does that tie into this process?
I'll let you. Notice how I dodged that question?
Yeah. I know you did, Monty, but we're looking for some
We might all be.
clarification,
Yeah.
or some
to
ideas.
some extent, it's a function of, again, this will be a substantial time commitment this fall, so I think you have to ask yourself, are you prepared, for example, to be here multiple times in, October, November, December, all day for negotiating sessions, possible mediation? That might be the bigger consideration, is really your availability to be here substantially for those.
Commissioner Pop?
We did have, at the beginning of this year,
Yep.
we had Commissioner Bowerly on there, and so it was you and Bowerly, and I replaced him because of that. So the chances of two of us probably going by the wayside probably pretty nil. So I think we're probably good with this until, at least January of next year.
You know, I guess the question
If you're
is.
willing to
I
put the time
I think
into
I
it.
am willing. I just want to open this up for discussion for the new commissioners too. If this is something that they're interested in, knowing what the timeframes and the commitment's going to be.
I would be interested if,
Yeah, I'm definitely interested being, I've been on the board and seen how they work, and I do have, with the library board, I do have some relationship with Susan
Oh,
Hanson.
that's right,
now.
you've done the libraries.
Yeah, so I've done the library stuff with her, so I feel comfortable with her.
Mr. Chair, my thought would be is at the very most should be one new commissioner on this, but that's my perspective. I don't think it should be two new ones.
Right.
Is this something that needs to be decided today, or can we give it some thought
Well,
for next?
as I mentioned, we have a petition that's been filed with the Bureau of Mediation Services to negotiate aspects of the ETS. So our negotiating committee will need to meet probably within the next month to 6 weeks. Yeah.
But if we tabled it till next meeting, so that we could all look at,
You could certainly, you could table a decision on
options.
this, of course, right, yeah, we won't be meeting.
Let's table this to the next meeting because I do have some questions that I want to share with some of the commissioners.
Okay.
Okay. Yeah.
Benton County Planning Commission, Commissioner Johnson and myself.
It's fine.
Benton County Solid Waste Management Advisory Committee.
I do have a question on this, and it actually relates to another question. I know I talked to Commissioner Kapinski about this a little bit. I think we should have some discussion about, we have some splitting here of, for instance, transportation and now here solid waste. Commissioner Pop and I sit on Tri-County Solid Waste, yet we have two other commissioners sitting on the Solid Waste Advisory Committee. Does it make sense, as best we can, to keep commissioners on the same subjects? Or not? Do we want it split up? There's a little bit of that in transportation also. You know, transportation, I'm on the AMC committee, the Region 7W, but I'm not on the Highway 23 coalition.
and for that purpose, I was thinking maybe I should give up the 23 coalition and have you be on that, because the 7 West and 23 are kind of working in conjunction.
Right, and along with the Minnesota Transportation Alliance. I mean,
Yep.
and I don't have an issue if we should split it up. The question is, should we split it up?
Well, I probably agree with you because of your knowledge of what you see in one meeting can carry over into the next one. It doesn't, shouldn't try and educate another commissioner on an item that's already partially educated on this, on this particular commission.
You know, in this particular one, the two go together, in my opinion.
Yeah, and this is score funding,
Yeah.
Yes.
you know. So is this something that, Monty, we should really take a look at all these committees in the future and get clarification of which committee should go coincide together?
I certainly understand the point. It kind of makes sense to align
does.
similar functions. Although on the other side of the coin, it does give a board member a bit of variety
Right.
in different subject areas.
Yep.
And sometimes it comes down to, are you available to meet at this particular time?
Right.
What's on your plate otherwise? Again, I'm not sure there's a right or wrong answer here. I think it's ultimately a judgment call that you all make, what you feel comfortable with, who's best suited for this particular role, who has an interest in that particular role. Lots of different factors.
And I really do just bring it up for discussion.
Sure.
I'm not-
But it's great discussion.
But it is, and I would have to agree with you, but I think we need some clarification of what committees really work hand in hand together in the future so that we can kind of tie all this stuff up. As of now, I would still like to be on that.
And it's worked well in the past. I don't think that, in the past, we've had the same two commissioners that are on Tri-County were on
Right.
Solid Waste Advisory. That's more of a count, the Solid Waste Advisory. I see your point, Mr. Johnson,
Yeah.
but, they're somewhat independent. We
Sure.
do have, 5 other people that sit on that, our citizens at large. that
Yep,
sit on
correct.
that.
So there's 5 citizens
Yeah.
and 2 commissioners.
Right.
Yeah.
And I'm fine with leaving it. I don't have no issue with that.
Over the years, I've seen they've done a terrific job of, and we do, you
Jacob's
gotta
back.
remember, we have a new person.
Thought we lost you.
Oh, we can reconvene here.
Yeah, we just, just reconvene our meeting.
I'm totally
for
fine
you.
with leaving it if that's the wishes. I have no
Okay,
issue with that at all.
Okay, we'll leave it as is if Commissioner Kapinski is
I'm
okay
fine
with
with
that
that.
too. Economic Partnership Board of Directors, we have Commissioner Pop, Commissioner Kapinski as an alternate.
I'm good with it if he is. I've
I'm
used
good
him a
with it.
couple times last year, so
It's a great board.
it is.
Central Minnesota, one thing I will stress before we keep going through this, it's kind of important for commissioners to stay on these boards for 2 years to truly have an understanding of what these boards are all about, because you don't figure it out in the first year. Moving forward, Central Minnesota Council of Aging Board of Directors, Commissioner Schlangen,
Good,
yes?
yes.
Children's Justice Initiative Team, that's me, yes. Okay, Benton County Liaison to Benton County Cities and Townships, that'll be all of us. Greater St. Cloud Development Corporation, Commissioner Schlangen,
Yes,
alternate Johnson.
Yep.
Highway 23 Coalition,
Mr.
Commissioner Gabinski,
Mr. Chair?
yes.
I think this one here, I don't know if we need to discuss, from my standpoint, I think it goes right along with your 7W, and we haven't really met.
What would you think, Commissioner Kapinski, if, I mean, it's representation's optional, why can't we have two of us on there?
We could definitely do that.
So have two people on there plus an alternate?
I would think
I don't know
just
that we need an
two.
alternate.
We never met at all, well, we,
They have an annual meeting, you know, I think because of COVID, they
Yep.
put off a lot of these, but they do have an annual meeting come up. I just got the meeting notice on that.
Okay.
and Commissioner Johnson and I were communicating with that 7W, because Commissioner Persky called me wondering about a few things. I
And he
got him in
called-
contact.
He called me and
And,
it's,
and to me, I think you need to be on it. I'm willing to stay on it as well if we can have to, but I think we need to circle in Commissioner Johnson on it.
Commissioner Pop, how would you feel of not being the alternate and having Commissioner
That
Johnson on?
makes no difference because you can still attend the annual meeting.
Right.
You know,
Sure.
that's all I've done in the past was attend their annual meeting
With,
in
with,
Wilmer. You know, I do know a fair amount of people in Wilmer, Redwood area that are on this.
So would we like to put Commissioner Kapinski and Johnson and you as the alternate?
Yeah, it's fine with me.
that works.
Okay, let's do it that way.
Okay.
Thank you for that one. Little Rock Lake Association, Mr. Pop?
Yeah, they haven't had, you know, they've changed their meeting structure, so it isn't a real big commitment anymore. It used to be every Saturday, but now they don't meet November through March.
Right.
And after they had their drawdown, it's pretty minimal what they do.
Well, it's your district anyway, so you're gonna stay on it.
Yeah,
The MICA board, we've got Commissioner Pop and Commissioner Kapinski.
you good?
I'm good
I'm
with it.
good.
It's a great board.
I think we'll be meeting in person the way it sounds pretty
and just to
quick.
clarify, that's something that all of us can attend at their annual meeting, right?
Correct.
Correct.
Yep.
Yep, you bet. You're all invited.
Minnesota Transportation Alliance, Commissioner
Yes.
Schlangen.
yes,
This again is ananother one, and it's matters
Ties.
to me, but I'm bringing it up for discussion.
That's right.
yeah, I got an interest in Highway 23 too.
Oh, no, we understand that, but this follows hand in hand
And
with
with-
some of the other
With
committees.
transportation.
The transportation committees. That's
AMC.
what we're trying to really gather. The information is what.
Maybe the simple answer is, again, because it's optional, we can allow two commissioners on it.
Okay, let's do that. Let's throw Commissioner Schlangen and Commissioner Johnson on that.
Okay.
Mississippi River St. Cloud, one watershed, one plan, Commissioner Johnson and alternate Pop.
I'm good with that.
Regional 7W Transportation Policy, Commissioner Johnson, alternate Commissioner Pop.
I think we only get one vote on there when they have
We only
stuff.
get one vote, that is right.
I'll just do the alternate.
Okay. Race Area Chamber, Commissioner Pop.
That's fine.
Retired Senior Volunteer Program, Commissioner Schlangen.
Yes,
Rum River Watershed, is that done with yet?
No, but we're,
Just about?
we should be done by June or July. We got a meeting coming up on the 10th. The
Okay,
public hearings are over and, I'm thinking this will not be on our plan next year.
okay. St. Cloud Airport Advisory Board, that's,
That group was abolished.
it is
Yep,
abolished,
it is
so
done. That's
take
right.
that
Cross
off
it
our list.
Yep,
That was my next question. Thank you, Monty, for clarifying that.
yep.
State Community Shack, that's me, yes. And SHIP is me, yes. Tri-County Action Program, Commissioner Schlangen, Commissioner Johnson, alternate Pop. Yes.
I'm good.
Tri-County Action Program, Executive, the same people. Yes.
Yes.
Water Resource Advisory Committee, Commissioner Johnson.
Yep.
Okay, now let's have a conversation about, what was the first one?
You got Fair Board and
Yep.
SWCD. So how about Fair Board first?
Okay, let's do the Fair Board first. Having conversations with a couple of commissioners and with you, Monty, in order for us to actually serve on this, we're gonna want a seat at the table and have a vote. My opinion is not to be involved if we're an advisory committee,
Yeah.
because we have no reason to be there.
I'd agree.
I do know they're having a special meeting tonight.
Okay, are you gonna go?
I don't know if I'm gonna go, Commissioner Pop.
I-
But I want to clarify this, though, that, you know, if we don't have a seat at the table, I personally don't want to be involved. You know, we got to have a voting.
Could that be something that's informed to them before tonight's meeting?
Yes, Monty, I've communicated, Monty, go ahead, please.
Well, I think Mary wanted me to give her a call after this morning's meeting and kind of let her know what your decision was. So I intended to do that. Yep.
Yeah, that is correct. So they are aware of this, of what our
So we
stance
should probably
is.
just wait and see what they do on their actions first
And
tonight.
that's correct. So my intentions was to have Monty contact Mary Ospey, let her know what our intentions are, and they won't meet until the third Thursday anyway.
Okay.
Okay,
And the
and we have opportunity before that to appoint somebody.
And the consensus is that we would appoint based off of a voting
Yeah.
ability.
Correct. Yep,
Yep.
that'd be the only reason we would.
If they don't give us the opportunity for a voting, then we're out.
It sounds like they may have to amend their bylaws to permit a board member to be on there because currently they have some conditions. You gotta be an Ag Society member, a 2-year volunteer, and if you haven't met those, then you couldn't be unless they change their bylaws.
And that's what they're meeting about actually tonight.
Well, they'll have indication on that.
Correct. I did some checking on people that were on there. The 2-year volunteer, they have waived that time after time after time. So that's not.
It ain't carved in stone,
It
huh?
ain't carved in stone by any means. They are struggling for board members, and just remember that
It's a commitment.
it's a commitment not on that board, but someplace in there that this could come back to haunt the county a little bit if we don't participate in some way. If they can't keep their things a-rolling here.
It falls back on us, right?
I believe there's enough people that are interested and wanna do it, but I think they're down to 6 or 7 members.
Right.
They can't operate with that many members, there's no way. And, you know, there's some changes that I see need to be made, I mean, this is a week of, you know, from pure, what would you say, you know, I mean, basically, it's from pure hell when you're serving that county board that week of the county fair. Because you're obligated to do this, this, and this, and the pay is not very great, guys.
So mentioning that, I did express my opinion to Mary Ospey that we want information and clarification of what the job duty responsibilities would be for somebody that sits on that board.
Right.
So that we have an understanding of what it is.
Mr. Chair, would it be reasonable then to let them have their discussions, if they're gonna move forward on their bylaws, have her submit that information to Monty?
Yep.
Monty can push it out to us,
Yeah.
and then we can finalize it at our
Yep.
next meeting.
Correct.
And that's what I did share with her.
Okay.
And they're willing to do that too.
Okay.
So,
Sounds
just
good.
so that we all have an understanding of
Are-
what's gonna be involved.
Do you know, Monty, are they actively recruiting some new board members?
I don't know. Yeah, I'm not.
I don't know that
I
one
don't
either.
either.
Just so they
So-
know we're interested.
Okay. Okay.
All right.
So everyone's good with that?
Yep.
That part of it? Okay, next.
Maybe Commissioner Pop, could you share with us the SWCD
So-
interests?
Last summer, I attended the SWCD when we had some, I don't know what the subject was, but anyway, some of the board members says, well, how come we don't have a county board member appointed to their board? It definitely can't be a voting member because them are elected officials on that one. And so I did a little checking and I shouldn't say, the counties I checked in all had a representation from the county that went to the SWCD board. So I had some conversation with Jerry Machi, about that. And I think it's, they're a large, we fund them to a substantial degree, and they've been coming for more money, and they put a lot of money into the county, whether it's job creations or economic development or making things better. You've seen some of the programs that they do out there, whether you're in the sportsman's department, they do some things for them to create wildlife and stuff like that. And so yesterday, I had called kind of late to the game. I called Jerry and asked him if they had any discussion, and he goes, well, I kind of dropped the ball. I didn't get it rolling. And he said, one of his comments was that maybe we could have somebody that would be designated to attend their meetings. And his suggestion was that all 5 commissioners take 2 meetings out of the year and sit on, come to their board meeting. It's the fourth
The
Wednesday
fourth Wednesday of the month at 8 a.m.
at 8 a.m.
Fourth Wednesday.
A little early.
Mr. Chair, I see Jerry's online with us here. I don't know if you
Yep.
may potentially like
Hi,
to
Jerry.
speak to that.
Hey,
Good morning.
Jerry, we're barely able to hear you. You might want to scrunch into your mic a little bit.
Is this any better?
Keep getting closer.
Swallow it.
Yeah.
Yeah. 4 inches away, sorry about that.
There, that's a little better.
We're good. Go right ahead, Jerry.
Okay. All right, Commissioner Pop, thank you for the call yesterday, and dropping the ball describes it very well. We have discussed this at our board meetings off and on over the last 3 or 4 years. We feel like it would be really beneficial for a variety of reasons. As you had mentioned, other districts do have commissioner representation on the board, and just we partner on so many things. We want to make sure our goals continue to be aligned, and so that we would really welcome if we had the county commissioner attend our meetings regularly. My suggestion about alternating or having the 5 commissioners, attend a couple meetings a year was in part due to the fact that we do have 3 pretty new county commissioners. They may not be as familiar with the activities of the SWCD. This would provide that opportunity in addition to like the tour practices and other events that we hold. So I'm happy to answer the questions. Hopefully you can hear me.
Mr. Chair, Jerry, if I could ask you questions, Commissioner Johnson. If I recall right, and I wasn't there for the full time, I believe I attended 1 or 2 meetings, but your meetings typically are 3+ hours. Is there a way, if the county board was to choose to follow this practice, that it could be set up in a way that maybe they would attend the first or last part of that meeting? I mean, some of the stuff you do, you're approving contracts, that type of thing. I don't know that the county board member necessarily needs to be there for that. If I'm asking the question right, if you know where I'm going.
No, I totally get what you're saying, Commissioner Johnson. We're very flexible. Matter of fact, we move our agenda items around during the meeting or at the beginning of the meeting, so we would have no problem with changing the order of activities.
Okay.
No problem at all.
I mostly wanted the rest of the board to be aware that, if they plan on coming to a meeting, it
was
could,
3 hours.
3 hours is,
Well, we've been here for.
we've been here for 2.5 today, but,
Yeah.
and that's right, isn't it, Jerry? They tend to run upwards of 3 hours.
They do. We've done a lot of things to shorten our meetings, but as soon as we try to shorten them any further, then we're missing out on activities. Yeah.
And maybe this,
About 3 hours.
maybe the simple solution is if we decide to go this route as the commissioner that's on at that time, obviously they're gonna have the agenda in front of them and they can choose to attend which part of the meeting potentially, that they'd like to be at.
Great idea.
Yeah.
My only comment would be knowing in advance what's going to be, who's going to be attending might be fruitful as well. For example, we'll have a presentation probably maybe 2 or 3 months from now on the underground regional treatment system going in, City of St. Cloud. It'd be nice to, if we have flexibility on when our board hears that short presentation, it'd be nice to have the flexibility to do it at the meeting that the commissioner that represents that area, could be present, so.
That's a good point.
I'll keep that up to you guys, but there is benefit to knowing in advance.
And that's fine. So we have a meeting the first Tuesday of every month. And at that point in time, we could also ask which commissioner would be willing to join you on that Wednesday or of the next meeting.
Sure, because that gives you about a 3-week notice.
Gives you a 3-week
And Jerry,
notice.
you know, between you and Monty, or, you know, you can send an email out and say, hey, Commissioner so-and-so, this item is gonna be in your district this month, you know, type of thing.
I'm curious, do you board members receive the soil and water packet each month?
Yes.
I do, yeah.
Yeah, I thought you could just respond to that email and say, hey, I'll be
Sure.
there.
Yeah.
We can do that
Yep, we can do
too.
that too.
We
I
can
don't-
do that and then I would like a follow-up in the board meeting, the first meeting of the month too.
So one thing we could do is we could just add it to your committee of the whole
Whole.
listing.
Yep.
You know how we add park commission and planning commission, we could just add the SWCD means as kind of a standing committee of the whole, and then
Right.
it's always there.
Yep.
You can see when it's coming up, and if 1, 2, 3, or all 5 want to go, you certainly could.
It's a good
Okay.
point. That'd be a
Yep.
great way to work it.
That's a great idea.
How would that be, Jerry?
Yeah, I think that would work well. I mean, I guess we just want to continue the partnership and, there's a lot of strength, you know, we'll communicate and, learn from each other, so.
Yep.
That would work just fine.
All right, thank you.
Committee of the whole would be great. Thank you, guys.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Have a great day.
Can I make one more announcement?
Sure.
Sure.
Sorry.
Just, long I've got your attention. We wrote a grant application back in August to do some bunch of work in the Elk River watershed. After the report, $491,000 is coming into Benton County.
Wow, that is
Nice.
awesome. Congratulations.
Whole bunch of, yeah, we're beyond excited, so.
I see, with the Benton County News here, Jacob's Pen just fired up at $491,000 grant.
Yeah.
That's, that's awesome.
He's
Thanks,
just
Jerry.
writing away, ain't he?
That doesn't help the levy.
No.
Thank you for that information, Jerry. Appreciate it.
Well, just to
Okay, Monty?
recap, it sounds like we need to revisit, it'd be good to have a motion to set these, but we need to revisit 2 things, the labor negotiating committee
And
and,
the park.
and the, hang on, let's have an email from Dylan here, Workington, let's see if he could tell me. Okay.
Was that on the
So,
retreatment deal?
Right, this is, you remember Dylan Workington?
Yeah.
Yeah, so he reminds me that he left me a voicemail and not an email. So that's what I'm gonna see if I can find. Okay. It says it meets quarterly. He doesn't tell me in his email though, the date or the time.
Okay.
So the best I can tell you right now is it meets quarterly, and I presume, of course, it's gonna meet down in Anoka County.
More than likely.
Is that enough for you to make a call today, or do you need more information?
Probably should have the time and
We will need all that information ahead of time.
Okay, that's cool. So I'll follow up and ask him for a specific date, time, to give you a better sense before you make that decision. So we'll bring back that one at your next meeting, and then some confirmation, what have you, of the labor negotiating committee membership.
And
To-
And the
And the
board.
park board, I mean, the.
Fair board.
Fair
fair
board.
board.
Oh, right, of course, fair board, you bet, yeah.
Mr. Chair, I'll move to, move forward with the county board appointments to the boards and commissions as presented along, with further information on Anoka County, the Fair Board,
Okay.
and
Labor.
labor negotiations. Thank you.
I'll second.
Got a motion and a second, any further discussion? I'm gonna call the question, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, passes. Next, commissioner meeting updates, I'll start, I had none.
I'll go second. I have one very quick comment. I just want to thank Monty publicly. He took some precious time away from his duties to meet with Commissioner Pop and I in regards to some financial information on the Pope Douglas
Oh, sure.
burner with Tri-County.
Yeah.
And I appreciate that.
Yeah.
I know
Yeah.
it's an extra thing to do, and so I appreciate
Oh,
it.
no problem, happy to do it.
That's all I have. No meetings.
Thank you, next,
No meetings.
no meetings, Commissioner Schlangen, okay,
I have nothing.
okay.
Well, I have nothing.
Great. Okay,
Well, it's only been a week.
I know. Is there any commissioner concerns to be brought forth? Okay, next, set committee of the whole meetings and designate any previous held meetings as necessary.
We have no new ones.
No new ones.
Nope.
Do we need a motion for that, for the existing
Nope,
ones?
no, sir.
Yep.
Mr.
Nope.
Chair, motion to adjourn.
Second.
Got a motion and a second. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
We're adjourned at 11:10.